My dear, do it for you. Do it because your heart needs it. Do it because your soul is tired of waiting. Do it because there comes a time, and I think many of us know this time, when you simply cannot keep standing in the hallway of your own life, waiting for someone else to open the door. Not everybody is going to see your effort. That hurts sometimes. Not everybody is going to understand what your heart has walked through. That hurts too. And yet, after a while, that is no longer the biggest issue. The deeper issue is this: how long are you going to wait for other people to confirm what you already know is true about yourself? There is a day when healing becomes very quiet and very clear. It is the day you stop living to be noticed and begin living so that you can finally belong to yourself again. That is a sacred turning point. Not dramatic, not loud, but very real. You know, a lot of us have done this. We wait for the praise. We wait for the support. We wait for someone to say, "Yes, now you matter. Now you may begin. Now you may trust yourself." And while we are waiting, life is already happening. Quietly, the sun rises. The body keeps breathing. The years go by. The real life, the one that is yours, keeps moving. And that is a painful way to live. So I want to say this to you very softly and very directly. Don't wait for someone to arrive and approve of your worth. Begin standing on your own side now. A great deal of suffering comes from living in places where you are no longer living. The body is here. This breath is here. This room is here. This morning, this evening, this ache, this chance to begin again, it is all here. But the mind, the mind can be somewhere else entirely. Part of it is back in the past, replaying, regretting, wondering, wishing. Another part is out in the future, tightening itself around what might happen, what could go wrong, what may never come. And then the one place where your life is actually happening gets missed. Not because you meant to miss it, because you have been trained to leave it. That is why people can be sitting in a beautiful, quiet room and still feel as though they are being chased. Their body is in the present, but their mind is in an old argument, an old wound, an imagined tomorrow. And then they say, "I can't find peace." Sweetheart, peace is not hiding from you. It is waiting right here under all that movement. Presence is not something you manufacture. You do not have to build it from scratch. It was there before the noisy thinking began. It is still there now. Take a breath with me, a real one. Let your shoulders drop just a little. Let your jaw soften if it has been trying to do all the work. Feel the air come in. Feel it go out. That's it. You're here, still breathing, still alive, still with the power to choose again. Sometimes that is all presence, is stopping long enough to notice that you have not disappeared. You do not need to go anywhere to find yourself. You only need to stop leaving this moment. And maybe that sounds too simple, I know, but simple is not the same as shallow. Some of the deepest healing I know begins with very ordinary things. One breath, one pause, one hand placed over the heart, one moment where you stop chasing the next thought and come back to what is actually true. You are here. This is where life is, not in yesterday, not in next week, here. And peace does not live in the future waiting room. It lives in the now, waiting for you to come home to it. Now let's talk about waiting for people to care, because that can become such a hidden prison. It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks very reasonable. I'm just waiting for support. I'm just waiting for the right person to believe in me. I'm just waiting to feel seen. But underneath all of that, there is often a quieter sentence. My life can really begin once somebody else confirms that I am worth it. And that is where the pain gets in. Because while you are waiting to be chosen, waiting to be praised, waiting to be understood, you may be leaving your own life sitting untouched on the table. You wait for someone to compliment you before you feel good enough. You wait for someone to encourage you before you dare begin. You wait for someone to love you deeply before you decide you are lovable. And all the while, your actual life is moving past you, not loudly, not cruelly, just steadily. That's the hard part. It doesn't stop and wait until you feel validated. It keeps going. And after a while, the soul gets tired of this arrangement. It gets tired of saying, "Please, can I start now?" It gets tired of living on emotional permission slips. There are things you must do simply because your soul needs them, not because anyone understands, not because anyone applauds, not because anyone notices. You rest because your body needs rest. You tell the truth because your spirit is tired of the strain of pretending. You leave what is harming you because you can no longer bear the cost of staying. You create because something in you would wither if you did not. You begin because waiting any longer feels more painful than being afraid. That is when real freedom starts. It starts the day you stop putting your life in the hands of other people's attention. And no, doing it for yourself is not selfish. I know some people get very uncomfortable with that idea. They think choosing yourself means becoming cold or self-absorbed. Not at all. It means you stop abandoning yourself. It means you stop treating your own needs as if they only matter when someone else agrees. It means you stop saying, "Well, if no one cares, I guess I shouldn't either." No, care anyway, show up anyway, listen anyway, rest anyway, begin anyway. Doing it for yourself is not selfishness. It is the end of leaving yourself behind. And then there's another piece of this that I think is very important. People often believe the answer is always more, more effort, more goals, more pressure, more proof, more improvement, more things to add. But life doesn't always change because you pile more on. Sometimes it changes because you finally put something down. That's a different kind of wisdom, a quieter one. Not every problem is asking for another strategy. Not every ache is asking for another layer of trying. Sometimes the soul is not saying, do more. Sometimes it is saying, please, enough. Enough pretending, enough pleasing, enough adjusting yourself into shapes that no longer fit, enough carrying an image just so you can be accepted, enough forcing, enough noise, enough running. You may not need another certificate. You may need less pressure. You may not need another self-improvement project. You may need less self-rejection. You may not need another polished version of yourself for other people to admire. You may need one honest moment where you stop and say, I am tired. This is not me. This pace is hurting me. This role is too small. This smile is costing too much. That kind of truth changes things. When life gets simpler, you begin to hear yourself again. It's such a relief. When there is less noise, less performance, less trying to be impressive, the real voice comes back, the one underneath all the management, the one that knows what you're really hungry for, the one that knows where you're tired, the one that knows what is true and what is only habit. Simplicity gives the soul room to speak. I've seen this again and again. A person thinks they need to add something to fix their life, another goal, another role, another layer. But what actually brings them back to themselves is subtraction. One less thing draining them, one less lie, one less performative yes, one less place where they betray their body just to keep the peace, one less voice in the room, one less obligation that never really belonged to them. And then, slowly, they begin to feel more like themselves, not because they achieved something dazzling, because they stopped carrying what was never theirs to hold forever. And there's something almost funny about that, isn't there? We keep thinking the self is hidden somewhere far away, and often it is buried under excess. Too much noise, too much proving, too much pleasing, too much look at me and tell me I'm enough. When all that begins to fall away, there you are, a little tired perhaps, a little tender, but real, much more real. So if no one sees it right away, let that be all right. If no one understands the shift, let that be all right too. You are not doing this to impress them. You are doing it because your life is asking for more honesty now, more presence, more loyalty to what is true, less waiting, less performing, less hunger for permission. Put your hand on your heart for a moment. Feel that? That's your life. That's your place to begin. Not when someone finally cares enough. Not when someone finally notices. Not when someone finally understands. Now, this is where you come back. This is where you choose yourself. And once that choice is made, even quietly, even shakily, something starts to soften. You stop trying to be everything for everyone. You stop asking the future to rescue you from the present. You stop asking the past to explain everything. You begin to live here, in this breath, in this body, in this truth. And from there, sweetheart, your whole life can begin to reorganize itself in a way that finally feels like home. And we're only just beginning. I want to share 5 ways with you, and we'll begin with the first 2, not all at once, not in a rush, just gently, because that is how real healing works. It does not usually arrive as one big, dramatic moment where everything changes overnight. More often, it comes in these small, honest turns of the heart, a little more truth, a little more softness, a little less running away from yourself. And if you stay with those little turns long enough, one day you look back and realize your whole inner world has changed. So let's begin here with something very simple and very important. If you want to choose yourself, truly choose yourself, one of the first things you must do is stop speaking to yourself as though you are the enemy. A lot of people don't notice how exhausting self-criticism really is. They think it is helping. They think it is making them sharper, more disciplined, more successful, more realistic. They say harsh things inside and call it honesty. They push and pressure and shame themselves. And then they wonder why they feel so tired all the time, why they keep losing their joy, why even simple things feel heavy. My dear, every cruel sentence you repeat inside your own mind takes a little life out of you. It really does. You may still keep going on the outside. You may still look capable. You may still smile and perform and do what needs to be done. But inside, something keeps shrinking. I've seen this in so many people. They are trying very hard. They are doing their best. They are showing up. They are carrying so much. And yet, underneath all that effort, there is a constant inner voice saying, "You should be better. You're not doing enough. What is wrong with you? Why can't you get it together?" That kind of inner life wears a person down, not all at once, quietly, day by day, thought by thought. It is like living in a house where someone is always criticizing you. Only the someone is inside your own head, and there is nowhere to leave. And that is one of the saddest forms of suffering, because from the outside people may say, "But look how strong she is," or "He's doing so much," and they do not see that inside, the person is being slowly drained by their own inner war. You cannot grow well in a hostile inner environment. You cannot blossom in a climate of attack. A plant does not open because someone shouts at it. A child does not become secure because someone scolds it all day. And you, sweetheart, do not heal because you become more brutal with yourself. You do not bloom in hatred. You bloom in repeated kindness. Now that does not mean you become vague or passive or dishonest. I am not talking about turning your inner voice into some sugary little thing that never tells the truth. No. You need honesty. You need clarity. You need responsibility. But there is a great difference between a voice that guides and a voice that wounds. A guiding voice might say, "This isn't working for us anymore. Let's choose differently." A wounding voice says, "You ruin everything." A guiding voice says, "You're tired. Slow down and begin again." A wounding voice says, "You're weak." A guiding voice stays present. A punishing voice only knows how to strike. And a lot of us learn that punishing voice very early. Maybe it came from parents, maybe from school, maybe from religion, maybe from a relationship, maybe from years of comparing yourself to everyone else. However it got there, if you are carrying it now, I want you to understand something very tender. You do not need one more harsh voice in your life. You really don't. The world has already had enough of those. What you need now is a voice inside you that can tell the truth without turning truth into a weapon. Sometimes people are afraid that if they stop criticizing themselves, they will fall apart. They think self-attack is the only thing keeping them productive. If I'm not hard on myself, they say, I'll become lazy, I'll stop trying. I understand that fear. I really do. But I have to tell you, love is far more stabilizing than shame. Shame may scare you into action for a little while, but it cannot sustain a peaceful life. It costs too much. A loving voice can still be firm. It can still say, "No, darling, we're not doing that anymore." It can still say, "Get up, take the walk, make the call, tell the truth." But it says it without humiliation, and that changes everything. So if you want to choose yourself, begin listening. Not to fix every thought in one day, just listen. What tone are you using with yourself? Is it sharp, dismissive, impatient? Is it always disappointed? Is it always pushing? Does it ever say thank you? Does it ever say well done? Does it ever say, I know this is hard? Does it ever say, I'm proud of you for staying? A lot of people are starving for kindness from others because they never receive any from themselves. Maybe today you begin with one small change, not 20, one. When the old voice rises and says, "You're hopeless," perhaps you answer, "No, I'm learning." When it says, "You always mess things up," perhaps you say, "I'm allowed to grow." When it says, "This is taking too long," perhaps you say, "Healing has its own timing." That is how the inner climate begins to change. Not through perfection, through repetition, through gentleness repeated until the nervous system starts to believe it lives with someone safe now. And that brings us to the second way, because sooner or later, you have to stop only talking about self-love in theory and actually face yourself. That is where the mirror comes in. Mirror work is one of the most direct, revealing, uncomfortable, beautiful practices I know. You can think lovely thoughts about yourself in a very abstract way. You can agree with healing ideas. You can say, yes, yes, I know I should love myself. But then you stand in front of a mirror, look directly into your own eyes, and say, I love you, and suddenly you know exactly where you are. You know if you believe it. You know if you want to run. You know if your throat tightens. You know if you laugh nervously. You know if something inside says, no, you don't. And that is not bad news. That is truth. That is where the real work starts. Because there are some truths you can only hear when you stop looking everywhere else and look at yourself. Not your clothes, not your hair, not whether you look tired or attractive or older or different than you wanted to. I mean your eyes, the living being behind the face, the one who has carried you through every single year of your life, the one who has waited such a long time to be met honestly. A lot of people avoid the mirror in that deeper way. Oh, they look in mirrors all the time. Of course they do. To check, to correct, to judge, to compare, to approve or disapprove. But that is not meeting yourself. That is inspection. Mirror work is different. Mirror work is presence. It is relationship. It is saying, I am not here to evaluate you. I am here to stay. So if you stand there and say, I love you, I am here for you, and you feel awkward or embarrassed or sad, or you want to turn away, that does not mean you are doing it wrong. It means something in you has finally been touched. It means there is a place inside that has not yet learned how to receive that kind of direct tenderness. That place doesn't need more criticism. It needs to be held. I often think of the mirror as a very honest friend. It does not make you feel unworthy. It reveals where unworthiness is still living. It does not create the distance between you and yourself. It shows you the distance so that, little by little, you can close it. So here is the practice, very simple. Stand in front of the mirror, look into your own eyes. Don't perform, don't pose, don't try to do it beautifully. Just be there. If it helps, place a hand on your heart or on your cheek. Breathe, then say slowly, I love you, I'm here for you. That may be enough for one day. You don't have to make a speech. You don't have to feel magical. You don't have to cry, though you may. You don't have to suddenly believe every word. Just stay. That staying is part of the healing. You may notice resistance. You may hear a voice say, this is silly, or this isn't true, or you don't deserve this. All right, let it speak. You do not have to wrestle it to the floor. You do not have to win. Just notice it, breathe, and say again, I love you. I'm here for you. That is a very powerful thing to do. You are teaching yourself that love does not disappear the moment discomfort appears. And maybe this is the bravest thing, after all. Not looking out at the world, not being understood by everybody, not doing everything perfectly, but standing in front of your own reflection and refusing to abandon yourself. That takes courage. More courage than many people know. There is something else that happens in mirror work too. Over time, it becomes less about whether you feel good doing it and more about developing a relationship with yourself that is honest, stable, and kind. You begin to recognize your own face as someone you belong to, not someone you must constantly fix. You begin to soften when you look at yourself. You begin to notice pain sooner and tend to it sooner. You begin to become a place of refuge for yourself. And that matters so much because the world will not always know how to hold you. People will misunderstand you. Some will overlook you. Some will be distracted. Some will love you well, and some won't. But if you can become someone who can meet yourself in the mirror and stay there in love, you are no longer entirely at the mercy of what the world does or does not give you. That is a deep kind of healing. So these are the first two ways. Stop using your inner voice as a weapon and stop hiding from your own eyes. Speak to yourself as someone you are trying to heal, not punish. And then meet yourself. Not someday, not when you have fixed enough things, not when you feel more lovable. Now. Because the truth is, sweetheart, the healing may begin long before the whole outer life changes. It may begin in a sentence, in a softer tone, in a mirror, in a breath, in one moment when you decide, I will not keep talking to myself this way. And then in the next moment, when you stand there and say, I love you, I'm here. That is not small. That is how a life starts to come back together. And when you're ready, we can go into the next ways, gently, one by one. There is a kind of tiredness that does not come from what happened today, sweetheart. It comes from what you keep carrying from yesterday and the day before that and the year before that. And sometimes from things that happened so long ago, you hardly remember when you first decided to make them part of your identity. You carry the old guilt. You carry the old pain. You carry the old explanations for why you are not enough, why life is hard, why love has to be complicated, why peace is for other people. And then you wonder why today already feels heavy before it has even had a chance to begin. A great many people are not tired because of the present moment. They are tired because the past is still sitting in their arms. I want you to picture yourself trying to walk into a beautiful new day while your hands are full of old bricks. A brick of resentment, a brick of shame, a brick of regret, a brick of I should have known better, a brick of if only. No wonder your heart feels crowded. No wonder your nervous system feels overworked. You do not have to keep carrying an old pain in order to prove that it was real. The pain was real. The betrayal was real. The loss was real. The disappointment was real. We do not honor what hurt us by letting it rent a room in our soul forever. We honor it by telling the truth about it, learning what it came to teach us, and then, little by little, loosening our grip. Forgiveness is one of the gentlest and most misunderstood forms of self-love I know. It does not mean saying, the past did not happen. It does not mean calling cruelty beautiful or pretending that what wounded you was harmless. Forgiveness does not erase the past. It frees the present. It is not a favor you do for someone else first. It is the moment you decide that an old event, an old person, an old version of yourself will not go on pressing its thumb against your heart every single day. There are people who have lived for years with the same old conversation running quietly in the background of their mind, and because it is familiar, they do not even notice how much energy it is taking. They think, this is just the way I am. No, my dear, it is often just the way you have been rehearsing your pain. What you rehearse long enough begins to feel like identity. That is why forgiveness matters. It interrupts the rehearsal. It says, yes, this happened. Yes, it shaped me. And no, I will not keep using my own life as the stage where this old scene is replayed. That is not weakness. That is not denial. That is wisdom. That is choosing not to injure yourself with the same sharp memory again and again and again. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is not another person at all. Sometimes it is you. You for not knowing. You for trusting. You for staying too long. You for leaving too soon. You for being afraid. You for being human in exactly the place where you wished you had been stronger. I think many people carry a hidden punishment inside. They do not call it that, of course. They call it realism or standards or accountability. But underneath it is often a deep refusal to let themselves be tenderly held by life again. They think if they forgive themselves, they will become careless. The opposite is usually true. When you stop punishing yourself, you finally have enough energy to grow. So if you are carrying an old self-accusation, I want you to take a deep breath with me now. Put your hand on your heart if that feels kind. Feel the warmth of your own hand there, because your body needs to know that someone is staying. Then say softly, I did the best I could with the understanding I had at the time. Let that sentence land. Do not rush. Say it again if you need to. I do not have to keep hurting myself to prove that I was hurt. There is so much healing in that one thought. It does not excuse what happened. It simply stops making fresh wounds out of old ones. You can make forgiveness very real in your body. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the old story as something you have been carrying in your hands. It may look like a box or a stone or a bundle of dark cloth or just a heaviness. Notice what it feels like to hold it. Notice where in the body you tighten around it. Then imagine wrapping that old pain in the softest, gentlest light you can picture, not to make it pretty, but to stop fighting it. Love is not agreement. Love is a way of releasing what no longer needs to live inside your muscles. You might see yourself placing it down on the ground beside you. You are not denying it. You are not throwing it away angrily. You are simply saying, I no longer need to carry this every day. Breathe again. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw soften. Let the belly feel the breath. Forgiveness is choosing not to keep dragging yesterday into every sunrise. That is all. It is not dramatic. It is not theatrical. It is often very quiet. One day you just notice that the old pain no longer gets first access to your mind when you wake up. One day you realize there is more room in you, more air, more life, more present time, and that is such a precious form of freedom. Now, once you begin putting down what no longer belongs in your hands, something else becomes possible. You can start teaching your mind a new voice. Because the mind, darling, is always listening to what you repeat. It believes in rehearsal. If every day you tell yourself the story of not enough, too late, too broken, too behind, too difficult, then your mind will build a little house around those words and ask your whole life to live inside it. The words you repeat become the emotional home your mind learns to live in. This is why affirmations matter, not because they are magic in the childish sense, not because they erase reality, but because they offer the mind another rhythm, another track, another way to move. You already know how repetition works. Worry is repetition. Self-criticism is repetition. Hopelessness is repetition. The mind is very good at taking what is repeated and turning it into atmosphere. So why not begin repeating something that heals instead of something that wounds? Why not offer the nervous system sentences that soften instead of sentences that tighten? Why not become deliberate about the inner voice that is shaping the tone of your whole life? A healing affirmation is not pretending. It is not standing in front of a storm and saying there are no clouds. It is more like turning your face toward the direction of light and saying, I am willing to move this way. An affirmation is a gentle instruction to the soul. It says, this is the new road. This is the new music. This is the new climate I want to live in. When you say, I love and approve of myself, you are not necessarily describing exactly how you feel in that second. You are introducing your inner life to a truer possibility. When you say, all is well, you are not denying that something may be difficult. You are reminding yourself that difficulty is not the whole of reality. When you say, everything is working out for my highest good, you are allowing the frightened mind to stop pretending it is the only interpreter of what is happening. That matters so much. The heart often begins to heal before it fully believes. It heals because it is finally hearing something kinder, steadier, truer than the old noise. It heals because the body starts to feel that maybe, just maybe, it does not have to prepare for attack all the time. I want you to hear these affirmations slowly, softly, not like a school assignment, not like a machine repeating lines, but like drops of warm water falling into dry soil. I love and approve of myself. Again, I love and approve of myself. And once more, I love and approve of myself. Do you feel where the resistance rises? Good. That means you have touched something real. Stay there, breathe there, all is well. Again, all is well. One more time, all is well. Not because everything looks perfect, because peace is still possible in the middle of imperfection. Everything is working out for my highest good. Again, everything is working out for my highest good. And again, everything is working out for my highest good. These are not empty sounds. They are the beginning of a new language in your inner world. A peaceful mind is not an accident. It is a practice of repeated, loving direction. The old voice got strong by being repeated. The new voice will become strong the very same way. Sometimes people say, but it feels silly, or it doesn't feel true yet, and I always understand that. Of course, it may feel strange at first. If the mind has been hearing harshness for years, kindness can sound unfamiliar. If the heart has been listening to panic, calm can sound suspicious. That does not mean the affirmation is false. It only means it is new. The unfamiliar is not the enemy. It is often the doorway. If you tell a frightened inner child, "You are safe now," the child may not believe you the first time. So you say it again, not louder, not angrily, just again. The body learns through repetition and gentleness. That is true for fear, and it is true for healing. Let your words become a place your own heart can rest. Let the tone matter too, because it is not only what you say, it is how you say it. A sentence said with tenderness enters differently than the same sentence said with pressure. So slow down, breathe, put your hand on your heart. Let your own voice become part of the medicine. And this is the lovely thing. Affirmations do not only change thought, they begin to change posture, breath, expression, choice. When you live for a while with, "I love and approve of myself," you speak differently after mistakes. When you live with, "All is well," you do not fly into the same panic quite so quickly. When you live with, "Everything is working out for my highest good," you become more patient with the unfolding. What you say to yourself repeatedly becomes the atmosphere from which you make decisions. That is why I want you to choose your words with care. Not to be perfect, to be faithful to your own healing. Speak to yourself the way your heart has been waiting a very long time to be spoken to. Speak to yourself as though you matter. Speak to yourself as though the nervous system deserves a little peace. Speak to yourself as though there is something in you that can grow when it is met with kindness over and over and over again. So take a deep breath with me now. Let the breath go all the way down. Feel your body in the chair, in the room, in this moment. You are here. You are not back there. You are not required to carry every old wound into today. You are allowed to put some things down. You are allowed to begin talking to yourself in a new way. You do not need to keep feeding the old story if the old story is starving your joy. Forgive what you can forgive today. Release one small thing. Then choose one sentence, just one, and let it become your companion. I love and approve of myself, or all is well, or everything is working out for my highest good. Stay with it. Let it settle. Let it become familiar. Let it become home. And the next time the old voice rises, you will not be empty-handed. You will have a new voice to meet it with, a kinder one, a truer one, a voice your heart may have been waiting years to hear. I remember a time when I planted something and kept checking the soil every day, almost as if I could force it to grow by worrying over it. I would look and look again and think, why isn't it here yet? What's taking so long? And of course, all I was really doing was disturbing the very process I was hoping to help. A lot of us live that way with our own lives. We keep tugging at things with fear. We keep demanding proof. We keep asking for answers before the roots have even had time to form. My dear, not everything that is slow is wrong. Some things are simply deep. Some things are growing where you cannot yet see them. Some seasons are not empty. They are preparing you. And there is such relief in learning that life is not always late. Sometimes it is simply exact. Some blessings are not delayed. They are arriving in the season your soul can truly hold them. That can be very hard to accept when you are tired or lonely or ready for change. I know. You may look around and think, why is nothing happening? Why is this taking so long? Why am I still here? But not every closed door is a rejection. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes the doorway is still real, but the person who will walk through it is still being formed. There are parts of life that ripen quietly. A relationship may not be ready because you are still learning how to choose yourself. A new level of peace may not feel stable yet because your nervous system is still learning not to panic in the presence of calm. A new opportunity may not have opened because your inner life is still being strengthened enough to carry it without collapsing under its weight. Life is often doing hidden work long before it shows visible results. That is why trust matters so much. Not blind passivity, not pretending there is no longing, but trust. The kind that says, I may not understand this fully yet, but I do not have to tear up the roots every morning to see whether they are growing. Trusting the process of life does not mean sitting in a chair and doing nothing. It does not mean becoming vague or lazy or disconnected. It means you keep walking, but you stop dragging fear behind you like a loud little child. You still plant, you still pray, you still write the page, make the call, go to bed on time, tell the truth, show up, breathe, try again. But you do these things without the frantic energy that says, if life does not answer me right now, then something is terribly wrong. Trust is movement without desperation. It is sowing without panic. It is living without trying to wrestle the future into immediate obedience. I think that is one of the most mature forms of healing there is. To keep participating in your life while releasing the demand that everything explain itself at once. A frightened mind wants instant proof. A healing heart learns how to stay open during the mystery. And that is why all is well is such a deep sentence. People often misunderstand it. They think it means everything is perfect, nothing hurts, nothing is unfinished. No, sweetheart, that is not what it means at all. It means something much gentler and much wiser. It means I am no longer fighting the fact that life has seasons. It means I am willing to believe there is a larger unfolding here than my fear can currently understand. It means I can stop treating my own becoming as a problem just because it is not complete yet. There is such peace in that. not because all the questions disappear, but because you are no longer using fear to interrogate your own timing. You let life breathe. You let yourself breathe. You stop making delay into failure. You stop making slowness into shame. You begin to cooperate with what is ripening instead of attacking it because it is not blooming on command. Now, alongside this trust, there is another truth we have to face with great tenderness. One of the biggest battles in life is not always out there. It is not always the boss, the family, the money, the world, the timing, the circumstances. Very often, the quietest and most exhausting struggle is the one inside you. The part that knows what is good and the part that keeps choosing what is easy. The part that longs for healing and the part that says, tomorrow. The part that wants depth and the part that reaches for distraction. The part that knows better and the part that still turns away. That is such a human struggle. We all know it, and you do not need to hate yourself for it. In fact, hating that small, frightened, lazy, avoidant part of you only gives it more power. What you need is not hatred. What you need is leadership. Growing up spiritually means you stop letting the smallest part of you do all the deciding. Every day becomes a little invitation, not a dramatic test, just an invitation. Will I choose what feels easiest in this moment, or what is actually kinder for my life in the long run? Will I give the steering wheel to the part of me that wants immediate comfort, or the wiser part of me that wants peace, health, truth, and self-respect? This is not about perfection. It is about choosing again and again and again. There is a lazy part in all of us, a frightened part, a delaying part, a part that says, not now, maybe later, it's too much, let's stay small, let's stay with what we know. That part does not need punishment. It needs to stop being in charge. Maturity begins when you can love the smaller parts of yourself without allowing them to run your life. I think many people are relieved when they finally understand this. They don't have to destroy the resistant part. They don't have to become some superhuman person who never feels doubt, never feels laziness, never wants comfort, never procrastinates. No, they simply begin to recognize, ah, there you are again. Then they take the wheel back, calmly, firmly, with kindness. Yes, I know you want what is easy right now, but we are doing what is true. That is a different kind of strength, a much more loving one. The real battle is not to defeat yourself. It is to stop surrendering to the part of you that always chooses smaller, later, easier, and less true. When you stop doing that, a new kind of life begins to open. Not because the world has changed overnight, but because your inner leadership has changed, and that changes everything. So if life feels slow right now, do not panic. If part of you keeps wanting to run backward into what is familiar, do not panic. Breathe, notice, choose again. Trust that your life has a rhythm deeper than your fear, and trust that you are capable of becoming the kind of person who can stay with what is true, even when it is not instantly rewarding. The greatest victory is not over other people. It is the quiet day you finally stop losing to yourself. And that victory, my dear, is built in ordinary moments, one breath, one pause, one wiser choice at a time. Don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect mood. Don't wait for the right person to finally appear and understand every corner of your heart. Don't wait for the applause. Don't wait for the day when everything is lined up so beautifully that being true to yourself feels easy. My dear, some things only begin to change when you begin quietly, awkwardly, imperfectly, even if no one is clapping for you yet. A lot of people spend years standing at the edge of their own life saying, soon, when I feel stronger, when they notice, when someone believes in me, and life keeps moving, softly, steadily, without waiting for all that permission. There comes a moment when the most loving thing you can do is stop postponing yourself. Not because you are fearless, not because you have every answer, but because you are tired of leaving your own soul standing in the rain. You do not need ideal conditions to begin being honest. You do not need everyone's blessing to choose peace. You do not need a better audience to become more faithful to your own heart. Some of the most sacred changes begin in private before anyone else understands what is happening. That is why I love the little mirror test at the end of the day. It is so simple, so honest, so human. You stand there and you ask yourself, not with cruelty, not like a judge, but like someone who truly wants to know, did I live honestly today? Did I keep my word to myself, even in a small way? Did I choose myself just a little more than I used to? You are not asking whether you were perfect. You are asking whether you stayed with yourself. There is such a difference. You may still have stumbled. You may still have been afraid. You may still have procrastinated, overthought, doubted, or cried in the car. All right, that happens. But if somewhere in the day you told one truth, kept one promise, softened one cruel thought, walked away from one old pattern, rested when you needed rest, or came back to the present instead of abandoning yourself again, then that was already a beautiful day. A life you can be proud of is not built out of grand promises. It is built out of days when you stop leaving yourself behind. And I think that matters more than people know. The soul does not heal because you impressed the world. It heals because little by little you became someone safe to come home to. I don't think the real goal is to live a life that looks impressive from the outside. I really don't. I think the goal is much quieter than that and much truer. The goal is to live in such a way that when you look back, you can do it with gentleness, with tenderness, with a kind of warm honesty. You can say, I was learning, I was trying, I was becoming truer. I did not always get it right, but I stopped betraying myself so often. That is a beautiful thing. That is a mature thing. Do not live a life only for other people's approval. Live a life that your own heart can remember with softness and respect. Because in the end, sweetheart, you are the one who lives inside your life. You are the one who wakes up in your body. You are the one who hears your thoughts. You are the one who meets your own eyes in the mirror. Let that meeting become kinder. Let it become steadier. Let it become real. So let us say a few things together now, slowly, softly, not to perform them, to let them enter. Put your hand on your heart if you can. Breathe. Feel your body here. Feel that you are still here, still breathing, still able to choose again. Then say with me, I no longer wait for other people to give me my value. Again, I no longer wait for other people to give me my value. One more time. I no longer wait for other people to give me my value. And now I choose myself. Again, I choose myself. One more time, I choose myself. Then I stop criticizing and begin loving myself. Again, I stop criticizing and begin loving myself. And again, I stop criticizing and begin loving myself. Now this one, I forgive the past and return to the present. Again, I forgive the past and return to the present. One more time, I forgive the past and return to the present. Then I trust the process of life. Again, I trust the process of life. And once more, I trust the process of life. And finally, look softly into yourself and say, I can look into my own eyes and say, I am proud of you. Again, I am proud of you. One more time, and let it land. I am proud of you. Maybe not everybody will understand you. That is true. Maybe not everybody will care in the way you once hoped they would. That can hurt. But let that no longer be the reason you stop living honestly. Let it no longer be the reason you postpone your healing. Let it no longer be the excuse for leaving your own heart unattended. You can still be present. You can still heal. You can still tell the truth. You can still stand in front of that mirror tonight and choose yourself one more time. Nobody cares? Then let that be the day you finally begin caring for yourself in the way you always needed. And I want to leave you with this very gently. You are not weak for needing love, and you are not foolish for wanting to be seen. You are human. But now you are learning something deeper, that you can become a source of kindness, truth, and steadiness for yourself. That is real power. That is real healing. That is freedom growing up inside you. So go softly, my darling. Stay close to your own heart. Be patient with your becoming. You are doing better than you think. You are safer than you know. And life still has so much good waiting for you. Be at peace. I love you, and so it is.